What's going on, everyone? So a big driving point to this season has been Fatima and sort of the metamorphosis changes that she's going through. And a big question has been, is it her or is it the baby? Right? It's been this like roller coaster ride of what is the real answer? What is really going on with Fatima? Right? First, we were led to believe that she was pregnant. Then they use the ultrasound and find out that no, she's not pregnant, that there is no baby inside of her. And then we got episode 8. And that's what I want to dive into and talk about because there is a lot to unpack and break down over these next 2 episodes. A lot of different directions in which this can go. But it really all stemmed around Ellis and Fatima, right? Like the big question going into the season was, or going into this episode was, what were they going to do? Were they just going to pretend like this didn't happen, play dumb and just kind of peace out? Were they going to take accountability? Were they going to tell anybody? Were they going to keep it a secret? I even talked about like how far will Ellis go to protect Fatima? How far will Ellis go to really kind of make sure that she's safe and that no one goes after her? And lo and behold, in a surprising move, Ellis actually told Boyd. Now, look, if we're being honest, if he was going to tell anyone, it should have been his dad. Because, right, like, you should tell somebody. But there really was this question of, like, should Ellis even tell anybody? Should anybody find out? Should anybody know? And you saw his dad trying to cover for Fatima, cover for Ellis. They go and find this cabin. Not really a cabin, more of like a shed, right? That Fatima can stay in. Talisman, right? Let's kind of keep her isolated, keep her hidden. And, we can vouch for her. You guys were staying with me the whole night. And you kind of had the story with Donna, right? Donna wanted Fatima out of Colony House and stuff. So Boyd could kind of play stupid and, kind of do the interviews, do the questions. And you saw him kind of like, hey, we need to make sure no one new showed up, right? Not like, they're asking about Sarah because that's the first thing that everyone came to mind was like, Sarah. I also, another thing that I found fascinating is so Boyd ultimately tells Donna, right? Because everyone's getting ready to grab their pitchforks and torches and go after Sarah. And Boyd says, it's not Sarah, it was Fatima. And then, him and Donna kind of have this point. And Donna tells him, because Boyd's like, what's the difference between this and Sarah? And Donna says, they don't believe in you like they used to. And I thought that was a very telling point. Something that I've talked about heavily and continuously harp on throughout this season is this season has been about breaking Boyd. How do you break Boyd, right? Killing is Ellis, killing Boyd, anything like that, it's not going to break Boyd to the level in which they want to break him, right? He is a man on a mission. He has a purpose, and he is just relentless in that purpose. And something that I've talked about is Boyd being distracted, right? Boyd is incredibly distracted right now dealing with Ellis and Fatima and everything that's going on with that. And you're seeing all these other characters go through all these other, kind of side quests and stuff that usually Boyd has a hand in or has some knowledge of or, is even involved himself where he is just oblivious to everything because he's so focused. Tell us, how do you break Boyd? You break the town. You get him distracted. People start dying. People start losing faith in Boyd. Now Boyd doesn't have that hero quest anymore, right? Like that's how you break Boyd. And now we're in a position where Fatima has been captured. Now, look, we got information now because what ends up happening is Elgin, which as soon as you saw the kimono lady pop up and appear, right, to Fatima, you knew, oh, here it comes, right? Because Elgin's been clearly tied and connected to Fatima. Elgin's been clearly on this journey to try to stop or kill or whatever. I've talked about how Elgin's gonna die, which now after episode 8, I'm not confident that Fatima's gonna die. I am like 100% sure Elgin is gonna die, right? This just feels like, like that stupid quest, where the guy you can tell is not thinking this all the way through. And there's going to be this point, right? Like, Elgin tells Fatima that she is pregnant, and it's not her kid, right? But it's not hers, is how he phrased it. Which, first off, I was like 80% sure. Now I'm like 99.99% sure, because I don't ever like to speak in definitive, so I don't want to say 100%, but I am like 99.999% sure that Fatima is going to birth the Smiley replacement, which is something that I've talked about, right? Like, and the reason I came to that conclusion, because I know people, I see it in the comments all the time, people are always talking about how, like, hey, you gotta be careful, there's spoilers, there's all this stuff on like Reddit and stuff like that. I have not seen the series. I am going along with you guys, just like you guys are, episode to episode, and I have not read the spoilers. So I don't know. Anything that I'm saying is just strictly my thoughts and a guess. But there are clear patterns in the show. And one of the patterns that I talked about heavily, and why I came to the conclusion that Fatima was either going to turn into the monster that replaces Smiley, or was going to give birth to the monster that replaces Smiley, is because that's the pattern. Every time somebody dies in Fromville, people come to replace them. All of Colony House gets attacked, and a bunch of people die. An entire bus of people show up. Recently, right? Nikki and Dale die. Henry and Officer Acosta take their place, right? Because you got to remember, Tabitha was already there, right? So, boom. And we've even seen that when somebody significant dies, it breeds, reward, right? So Tian, who is literally the cook and responsible for feeding the entire town, dies, and the next morning there's enough food to feed everybody when they're in the middle of a food shortage, and no one saw the food that was there. Like, it literally appeared overnight, right? Like, that's not like coincidence, right? Again, Kenny and Jim both scoured the area, and it wasn't like miles down the road. It was literally right outside the cabin. So unless they just completely missed the field of cabbage, right? Like, it was there after Tian died. Okay, so what happens when a monster dies? That's how I came to my conclusion. What happens when a monster dies? The show tells you that the monster is going to be replaced. And Christy, as well as one of the monsters in season 1, when Colony House was getting attacked, have both relayed that essentially that they were once human, right? Or they came from human, right? Okay, well, either A, a human gave birth to them, or B, they turned themselves. So now that we know that Fatima is pregnant, which I do believe Elgin, right? Because if anyone would know Elgin is there, what's the best way to mask a lie? Is by surrounding it with truth, embedding truth into the lie, right? That's why I think Elgin is going to die. Elgin was relayed information that she's pregnant with a monster kid. He has to see this through, and then was relayed that he gets to go home. Guess what he's not going to do? He's not going to go home. That's why I think he's going to die. I think he is going to help see this through for Fatima, and he's going to think that I just saved the town, I saved everybody, and then I think he's going to be monster food is what I think is going to happen. Fatima, the only reason I don't see Fatima dying is because I can see Boyd and Ellis coming in and saving her. Right? I don't rule it out. I wouldn't be shocked if she died. But I also feel like, again, I've talked about this before, I think that this is the iteration where characters kind of make it, right? Like, Miranda has died Miranda and all the chosen ones before have all died every single time, right? Christopher and all the ones before died every single time. Well, Jade, I believe, will be the one to solve it. Tabitha will be the one to solve it, right? Like, and you kind of go down the list, so on and so forth. I think that'll be the one to solve it. And so I am very confident that Elgin's going to die. I'm like 50-50 with Fatima. I could see her surviving, but I do think she is going to give birth to the monster, and then that'll ultimately lead to Elgin's death. That Elgin will die because he ends up helping this go through, and then, they're like, oh, here's your reward, you ready? And then boom, like, just completely take him out. But clearly this is going to be where we're headed to. This is what's going to ramp up. I don't think it gets all resolved next episode. I think that this will bleed into the final episode. I could see her starting to give birth as like the cliffhanger to the next episode, right? Episode 9. And then we kind of get the end result in episode 10. And then, of course, they have whatever they decide to set up for to bleed into next season. It's kind of my thoughts. But I believe Fatima actually has a baby, right? I think it's like, because they also hinted at it previously, right? Like, I don't think that was by accident. And I even talked about that in a video, right? That they mentioned and made it a point several times that like maybe it's a baby like Boyd had the worms. The real question is, how did Fatima become pregnant? And is that something that they're even going to explain? Or is that something that they just kind of brush under the rug? Because that would be disappointing, right? Because Fatima was already pregnant before Boyd did the blood transfusion, right? So there's got to be something that caused her to be pregnant. But I can see it just being like, hey, that's this place, right? Because remember, she was somebody that wasn't allowed to be pregnant, or wasn't able to get pregnant. Right? It was supposed to be impossible. So is that the pattern for the characters that turn into monsters, right? They give birth through people that aren't allowed to give birth, right? Like somebody that would never be able to have a kid otherwise, all of a sudden, now you're having a baby, but it's a monster, right? That's kind of how this feels. It's kind of the trajectory I see this heading. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? First off, do you think that she's really pregnant, or do you think Elgin's just, ill-informed? I think that part is true. I do. I think that, because again, like, what's the best way to lie to somebody? You tell them truth, right? You tell them, you make as much of it be true as possible, and then you back in the lie, right? So it's kind of how I feel about this. But, do you think Elgin dies? Do you think Fatima dies? How do you think this is going to go? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. It helps me out. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.